What if I told you that the biggest threat to your health after 65 might be sitting across from you in a white coat? It sounds harsh, I know, but too many senior women walk into the doctor's office hoping for answers and walk out feeling dismissed, unheard, and even insulted. You explain your symptoms carefully, but instead of getting real help, you're handed an excuse. It's probably just your age. Sound familiar? In this video, I'm going to reveal 6 dangerous questions doctors ask women over 60 and why you should walk out if you hear them. These questions may seem innocent, but they hide something deeper, neglect bias, and even silent risk to your health. You deserve care that respects your experience, your independence, and your voice, and I'm here to make sure you get it. Before we begin, I'd love to hear from you. Where are you watching from, and what time is it right now? Drop it in the comments. Even the smallest moment in your day means something to me. And if this video speaks to you, please don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the real talk you truly deserve. Question 1. Are you sure it's not just age? You sit down in the doctor's office. The room is quiet, cold, and smells faintly of hand sanitizer. You've made the appointment because something doesn't feel right. Maybe it's the way your knees have been locking up, or that strange fluttering in your chest when you're walking through the grocery store. You explain it clearly. You're hoping for answers. Maybe a test, maybe just someone who takes it seriously. And then the doctor leans back and says, "Are you sure it's not just your age?" That one sentence, just 10 words, can make you feel small, dismissed, and suddenly unsure of yourself. And it happens every day to senior women across America. From Florida retirement communities to rural towns in Nebraska, older women are being told their symptoms are simply part of getting older. But here's the truth. No one wants to say out loud, aging doesn't mean suffering, and it certainly shouldn't be used as an excuse to stop investigating your health. Let's pause here because I want you to think about that. Pain is still pain. Fatigue is still fatigue. Confusion, dizziness, numbness. None of those are just age until you've ruled out every real cause. But when a doctor says that phrase, what they're really doing is shutting the door. No tests, no second look, no effort. And that can be dangerous. Let me tell you about Linda, a 71-year-old retired school secretary from Kansas. She began experiencing shortness of breath, especially when walking from her driveway to the mailbox. Her doctor told her, "It's probably just age catching up with you." But Linda wasn't convinced. She sought a second opinion, and thank God she did. A cardiologist discovered she had early-stage heart failure. Today she's on medication, eating well, and walking every morning. But if she'd accepted that first answer, she might not be here today. This happens more than we'd like to believe. Why? In part, it's because many doctors are overworked. They're trained to spot patterns and move fast. And sometimes age becomes the easiest explanation. But aging is not a diagnosis. It's not a full stop. It's a starting point for deeper understanding. Scientifically, this matters. After menopause, women's bodies change significantly. Your estrogen drops, which affects your heart, brain, bones, and immune system. For example, did you know that heart attacks in older women often present not with crushing chest pain, but with fatigue, nausea, or even back pain? That's why so many go misdiagnosed. Low thyroid function can mimic memory loss. Vitamin B12 deficiency can cause numbness or confusion. Chronic urinary infections can trigger mood swings or agitation that look like dementia. And yet these treatable conditions get written off as getting older. It's not just insulting, it's risky. And what's worse, this kind of dismissal chips away at your confidence. You start questioning your own body. You begin wondering if you're just being dramatic or overthinking. You delay that next appointment. You stay quiet even when something feels off. That's why we need to talk about this. Because here in the U.S., where independence is everything, where women over 65 are raising grandchildren, volunteering, and running households, you deserve better. You deserve a doctor who asks real questions, who looks deeper, who respects what you say and knows that your voice matters. If your doctor ever says it's just your age and offers nothing more, no tests, no follow-ups, no thoughtfulness, then you have every right to walk out and walk into the office of someone who sees you as more than a number. Your body has carried you through decades of love loss, work, and wisdom. It deserves care that matches that legacy. Getting older doesn't mean getting ignored. It means being heard louder than ever. Question 2. Do you really want to do those tests at this age? You're sitting in the clinic flipping through a pamphlet about healthy eating after 65 when the doctor walks in with a serious face. You've just shared something important. Maybe you've been feeling a little foggy lately, or maybe you've noticed some shortness of breath at night, a pressure in your stomach that keeps waking you. You're nervous but also hopeful. Maybe they'll run some tests, figure it out, and help you feel like yourself again. And then they ask, do you really want to go through all these tests at your age? It sounds like concern, like they're trying to protect you. But under that gentle voice is a message that stings. You're not worth the effort anymore. This moment happens in thousands of exam rooms across the United States every single day. From the small clinics in rural Idaho to the top hospitals in New York City, older adults, especially women, are told directly or indirectly that seeking answers might be too much or unnecessary. But let me be absolutely clear. Age is not a reason to stop asking questions. Let me tell you about Joan, a 76-year-old grandmother from Phoenix who was starting to feel emotionally off. Her energy dropped, her mood shifted, and sometimes she found herself staring at the fridge, unsure of why she opened it. Her first doctor said it was probably just aging. Nothing urgent, no need for blood work or imaging. Let's not overdo it. But Joan wasn't convinced. She made an appointment with a second doctor. That visit changed everything. After a few simple tests, they found a vitamin B12 deficiency and a low-grade urinary tract infection, two very treatable issues that were mimicking early dementia. Within weeks of treatment, her mind cleared, her energy returned, and her life felt steady again. Now imagine if she hadn't pushed for those answers. Here's the thing. In American culture, we value independence. We admire people who fight for their well-being and stay sharp well into their 80s. But the healthcare system doesn't always match that value. Too often, it treats aging as a steady decline rather than a stage of life full of potential, purpose, and strength. Medically, this is dangerous. As we age, our bodies metabolize nutrients differently, our immune responses shift, and inflammation builds more quietly. A simple deficiency like low B12 can look like depression or cognitive decline. A urinary tract infection can cause confusion in seniors long before it causes pain. And yet these conditions are easy to test for and easy to treat if someone takes the time to look. But when your doctor suggests skipping tests because of your age, what they're really doing is skipping the chance to help you heal. Emotionally, it goes deeper. That question, do you really want all these tests, can make you second-guess yourself. It plants guilt as if asking for care is selfish or wasteful, as if you should just accept feeling off because you're no longer 40. That is not the America we believe in. You've spent decades raising families, building communities, paying taxes, and contributing to the heartbeat of this country. You deserve more than a pat on the hand and a "you're just getting older." You deserve facts, clear answers, and a plan that puts you back in control. So if something feels off, speak up. Ask for the test. Ask why not. If your doctor hesitates without a good medical reason, get a second opinion. Because your peace of mind, your clarity, your comfort, they all matter no matter what your birth certificate says. Getting older in America should mean you get more care, not less. You've earned that, and you should never feel guilty for wanting to feel better. Question 3, are you still sexually active? You're at your regular checkup, sitting on that exam table wrapped in paper that crinkles every time you shift. You came in for back pain or maybe high blood pressure. The nurse checks your vitals, the doctor flips through your chart, and then completely out of nowhere comes the question, are you still sexually active? It lands like a slap, not because of the words themselves, but because of the way they were said. No explanation, No context, just a quiet implication that somehow at your age the answer must be no. If this has ever happened to you, know this: you're not alone. Women all across America, from small towns in Georgia to the busy suburbs of Chicago, have experienced that same pause, that same awkward silence, that same shame. And it's not because sex after 60 is shameful, it's because the question was asked carelessly. Let's be clear. There are legitimate reasons a doctor may need to ask about your intimate life. If you're experiencing urinary problems, pelvic pain, dryness, or hormonal changes, these symptoms are often connected to sexual health. In those cases, the conversation matters, but it should be done with empathy, clinical clarity, and above all, respect. What hurts is when the question is tossed in thoughtlessly, with no explanation, and sometimes even a tone of surprise or amusement. As if the idea that a woman over 65 could still be intimate with someone is somehow laughable, or worse, irrelevant. That's when it becomes more than a question. It becomes a message. A message that your body, your desires, and your quality of life no longer matter. That message is wrong, and it's damaging. You see, for many older women in the United States, especially those who've lost a spouse or gone through a late-life divorce, reclaiming intimacy is a deeply personal journey. It's not about impressing anyone. It's about feeling human again, about closeness, connection, touch. And science backs this up. Research from institutions like the Mayo Clinic and Cleveland Clinic shows that healthy sexual activity, even just emotional intimacy, can support cardiovascular health, reduce stress, and improve sleep. More importantly, it strengthens the emotional well-being of seniors, especially women who often face loneliness more acutely in later years. But when doctors ask the wrong way or imply that intimacy should have expired with menopause, many women shut down. They avoid discussing vaginal discomfort, hormone imbalance, even bladder leaks because they've been made to feel embarrassed. And that silence costs them relief. It costs them confidence. And it costs them connection. Here's something you deserve to hear. You are never too old to talk about your body. You are never too old to enjoy closeness. And you are never too old to be treated with dignity. So if that question ever comes up and it's relevant, it should be explained first. Your doctor should say something like, "I'm asking because some symptoms you've mentioned may be related to hormonal or sexual health. If you're comfortable, we can discuss it." That is how respectful care sounds. But if the question feels like a judgment or worse, a joke, you have every right to speak up. You can say, "That feels inappropriate to me," or simply, "I don't see how that's relevant today." And if the doctor doesn't respond with respect, it may be time to find one who does. Because whether you're living in sunny California or snowy Vermont in a marriage or on your own, you deserve healthcare that sees the full picture of who you are. Your sexuality doesn't vanish when you turn 60, and your right to privacy, comfort, and respect doesn't either. Question 4. Are you still living alone? It starts off sounding harmless, maybe even kind. You're sitting in a doctor's office somewhere in Portland or Pittsburgh, waiting for someone to take your symptoms seriously. You came in because your left foot has been bothering you, swollen, stiff, maybe a little painful when you walk up the stairs. And then in the middle of the conversation, your doctor tilts their head and casually asks, "Are you still living alone?" The word "still" does something strange to the sentence. It turns a question into a judgment. It suggests that living alone at your age is no longer normal, that perhaps it's risky, or maybe even irresponsible. In that moment, the conversation shifts away from your symptoms and toward your ability to remain independent. And for so many older women in America, especially those in their late 60s, 70s, and 80s, that shift feels like a quiet accusation. Across the country, in small towns in Iowa, in apartment buildings in New York City, women are aging with strength, resilience, and pride. Many live alone not because they have to, but because they want to. They've built routines, managed their finances, mowed their lawns, and even shoveled snow through winter in Michigan or Montana. And they've done it without asking for permission. But when a doctor's tone implies doubt or worse, pity, it strikes deeper than they realize. Let me tell you about Helen. She's 79 and lives just outside Denver. She came in for a sprained ankle, the kind you get from stepping off a curb the wrong way. Instead of focusing on the injury, her doctor spent 10 minutes asking how she buys groceries, who checks in on her, and whether she has someone to help around the house. Helen told me later, I left feeling like I had to prove I wasn't falling apart. The truth is, for many seniors in the U.S., independence is sacred. It's not just about pride, it's about identity. After raising children, working full-time jobs, and often caring for parents or spouses living alone, becomes a quiet celebration of finally having your own time, your own rhythm, and your own space. And medically speaking, independence matters more than we realize. Studies from the National Institute on Aging show that seniors who maintain control over daily choices, whether that's when to eat, where to go, or how to live, report better physical and mental health. They're less likely to experience depression, more likely to stay active, and even show stronger cognitive resilience. But here's the challenge. As people age, the healthcare system in America often assumes frailty first and ability second. And that assumption seeps into conversations, subtle but powerful. It can make patients feel defensive even when all they wanted was help with a sore joint or new medication. So what can we do? If you're a senior woman living alone and you're doing it by choice, you don't owe anyone an explanation, especially not in a medical setting that should be focused on your symptoms, your comfort, and your care. You have every right to redirect the conversation back to the issue at hand. You can say, yes, I live alone. What does that have to do with my foot? It's not rude. It's advocacy. And if you ever feel like your independence is being questioned more than your actual health is being addressed, it might be time to find another provider. One who respects that aging doesn't mean helplessness. Because across every state in America, from sunny retirement communities in Arizona to walk-ups in Boston, women are aging on their terms. And they deserve health care that recognizes that independence not as a problem to solve, but as a strength to support. Question 5. Do you want to ask your daughter first? You're sitting across from your doctor in a clean, bright room at a clinic just outside Sacramento. You've listened patiently as they explained your diagnosis. Maybe it's arthritis in the knee. Maybe it's time to consider a joint replacement. You nod along, taking it all in. You're asking smart questions, weighing the options, trying to understand the timeline. And then suddenly the doctor interrupts your thoughts and says, do you want to ask your daughter first, just like that? The power shifts. It's a question that sounds gentle on the surface, but underneath it carries something heavy, a quiet assumption that maybe you can't decide for yourself. In that moment, you're not seen as a capable adult making an informed medical choice. You're seen as someone who needs permission. This happens to women across America every day, women in their 60s, 70s, and beyond, who are fully capable of managing their own health, their homes, their finances, and their lives. But when they step into a medical setting, especially when they're older and female, that confidence is too often replaced by assumption. Let's talk about Barbara, a 68-year-old widow from Austin, Texas. She had been living independently for years and recently made the decision to have knee replacement surgery so she could stay active with her church group and continue gardening. When she met with the orthopedic surgeon, she felt ready to move forward. Before she could speak, he asked, "Would you like your son to come in and help you decide? Barbara told me later I didn't need help. I needed respect. And he didn't even give me a chance." This kind of subtle dismissal can be incredibly disempowering. And it's not about one isolated question, it's about what that question suggests. That because you're older or because you're a woman, you must not understand. That maybe someone younger, someone male, someone wiser should step in. But here's the truth, unless you've given someone power of attorney, you are the decision maker. Your body, your health, your future, it's yours to manage, just as you've managed everything else in your life. Raising kids, navigating careers, making choices in moments of crisis and clarity. From a medical perspective, there's no reason to default to family input unless you've asked for it. In fact, too much outside influence can cause confusion, delay important decisions, or even push patients toward choices they're not comfortable with. And emotionally, it cuts deeper. That question can plant doubt where there was none. It can make you second-guess your instincts or hesitate when you were ready to speak up. It turns confidence into caution. That's why it's so important to pause and recognize what's happening. If a doctor asks whether you want to consult your daughter, your son, or any family member, and it doesn't come from a place of genuine medical necessity, you have every right to say, "Thank you, but I can decide for myself." That response isn't confrontational. It's clear, it's calm, and most importantly, it reminds everyone in the room, including yourself, that your voice matters. Across the United States, from Seattle to Savannah, millions of older women are managing chronic conditions, making treatment choices, and advocating for their health every single day. And they are doing it with wisdom, clarity, and lived experience that no medical chart can measure. So the next time someone questions your ability to choose for yourself, remember this: you don't need permission, you need information, and a doctor who respects your strength enough to offer it. Question 6. Are you sure you want to continue taking that medication? You've been managing just fine, maybe not perfect, but fine. You've been taking your medications regularly, sticking to your routine, and feeling more like yourself again. Maybe it's something for blood pressure. Maybe it's a low-dose antidepressant that helped after losing your spouse 5 years ago. Then one day at a routine visit in your clinic just outside Minneapolis, your new doctor looks at your chart, pauses, and says, "Are you sure you want to keep taking that?" And just like that, everything feels uncertain. Not because of the words themselves, but because of what they leave out. No explanation, no context, no effort to understand how that medication has helped you, not just on paper, but in your life. It's not the question that's wrong, it's the way it's asked. In many parts of the United States, from Los Angeles to Louisville, medication reviews are a regular part of senior care. That's a good thing. As we age, our bodies metabolize drugs differently, our kidneys process things slower, and side effects can shift in ways we didn't expect. But stopping a medication, especially one that's helped you, is never a decision that should be made casually. Take the story of Carol, a 74-year-old widow living in Asheville, North Carolina. After her husband passed, she struggled to get out of bed, to cook, to even answer the phone. Her doctor prescribed a mild antidepressant, and over time she began to find her footing again. She started walking with a neighbor, reading again, even traveling to see her grandchildren in Oregon. Years later, a new doctor joined the clinic. After a quick glance at her file, he said, "We don't usually like older patients staying on these long term. Are you sure you want to keep taking it?" No mental health screening, no conversation about how she'd been feeling, just a suggestion to stop. Carol tried. Within 3 weeks, she found herself waking in tears, avoiding calls, feeling that familiar fog return. She told me it wasn't just the sadness, it was the silence. "He never asked what that medication meant to me. This happens more often than it should. Older adults in America are frequently told to stop medications without the full picture. And while yes, polypharmacy, taking too many meds, is a valid concern, it doesn't mean every pill is a problem, especially when it's carefully monitored and clearly helping. From a biological standpoint, medications affect neurotransmitters, hormones, and chemical messengers that influence how we sleep, think, and feel. Sudden withdrawal, especially without tapering or a backup plan, can disrupt brain chemistry and lead to serious setbacks. It's not just emotional, it's neurological. That's why any conversation about stopping medication should begin with questions, not conclusions. How have you been feeling lately? Have you noticed any new side effects? Are you interested in trying a different approach? Or are things working well for you? Now, those are the conversations that build trust, and those are the doctors worth keeping. You have the right to ask for reasons. You have the right to hear the risks and the benefits clearly and calmly. And you absolutely have the right to say, "I'm not ready to stop," especially when you know that medication is part of what's keeping you steady. because managing your health at this stage of life isn't about guessing. It's about listening to your doctor, yes, but more importantly, to yourself. And in a country as diverse and dynamic as the United States, where every aging journey looks a little different, your experience deserves to be heard just as much as your lab results. So if someone questions your medication without asking about your well-being, remember the pill is only part of the story. You are the rest. Before we go, I hope this video reminded you of something important. Your voice matters no matter your age. You have every right to ask questions, to be heard, and to receive the care you truly deserve. And when something doesn't feel right, whether in your body or in the way you're treated, never hesitate to speak up or seek a second opinion. Your health, your peace of mind, and your independence are all worth protecting. These tips are shared for general awareness. If you're facing any health challenges, be sure to check with your doctor before trying anything new. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What part of this video spoke to you the most? Or if you're not sure what to say, just type the word hope in the comments. That alone tells me you're still standing strong, and that means the world. If you found this helpful, don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share this with a friend or loved one who may need it. And as always, I'm sending you warm thoughts from my heart to yours. May your days ahead be steady, your spirit be strong, and your next doctor's visit full of respect.